everybody, and welcome to the LTH Product Briefing. I'm delighted today to be joined by Alex Smith, the Senior Director of Product for Knowledge Search and AI at iManage. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, Nikki. How are you doing?
Very well. It's really nice to have you here today. And I know that you are here specifically today. iManage has a product that is broad and does many different things, but specifically today, we're going to be talking about Insight Plus. So I'm going to hand over to you actually to introduce that product and tell us a little bit about what makes Insight Plus fresh and new today.
Okay, so Insight Plus is what we called our knowledge search and management solution, and it's built within the iManage Cloud platform. We have a product called Insight, which we have multiple customers, especially in large law, using already. But what we have done is rebuilt that whole thing from ground up for cloud, and obviously accelerated by various dynamics like the pandemic and a move to cloud that we're seeing. But ultimately, what we have built is a knowledge search solution, which basically means that we can look after various parts of the knowledge environment that lawyers look for. So whether that be looking for best practice, looking for know-how that the firm has looked after, whether it's looking after their deal or litigation sets or final documents, or whether it's looking after a slightly broader context of looking at matters or people within their organization as they try to do legal work, trying to allow lawyers to jump in at different points and then almost context switch around within those places. It's exciting because the way we built it is to build it as in a kind of next gen search solution. So it meets current needs, which are often very precise searching, keyword searching, and highly relevant results. But it's also looking towards the kind of next step, and especially with changing behaviors we're seeing in the market, towards more fuzzy or semantic searching. And I'm sure, Nikki, you'll pick up and ask on things around the more generative side, and it's definitely looking to support that as well. But the way we look at it is ultimately people make choices about the types of searches, the types of context they're looking for, and we think this is a great solution for that and to build out a knowledge strategy around the different types of searches that we'll get into it later.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. And one of the things I love is the way that you refer to it as a knowledge search and management platform. It has the search capabilities and varied search capabilities, but it then also has the ability to manage or curate knowledge and add those workflows right in the system, which sounds very cool. So let's jump in and take a look. I can't wait to see the new iteration of Insight Plus.
Okay, I'm going to do this in two parts. So what you have here is jumping into Insight Plus. You can see that one of the big things which remains along the top here, there's always the big search bar. So the ability to put in different types of search into that, rerun searches, be suggested searches, etc. The first experience that you can see here is around a landing page. So I know we're going to get on to generative AI, but lawyers still like browsing things and seeing lists of things. So what we have here is what's called a landing page. And what it allows you to do is jump around your knowledge that has been curated. And we'll come on to that in a minute. So you can see things like recommended knowledge and recent knowledge. You can see here that you can jump around your taxonomies. So, different levels of corporate law. If I want to go back, I can go back and you'll see that I then jump back into, let me go back into the home. You can see there's different practice areas or different legal topics here are available. So that's our browse view. There's a lot around that in terms of highlighting key knowledge, key assets for a potential junior lawyer, or even over time, things that we call either deal packs or collections where you can work out how to do a deal.
So
I come more into the, go on.
What that would mean is if you are a lawyer in one of those practice areas, you jump into that page and you're immediately being pushed the most relevant resources for the type of work that you do.
Yeah. So in this case, I'm an employment lawyer. I can make this my homepage. So I just ignore everything else. And here's the knowledge that my teams want to push towards me. At the moment, these are documents, but over the next 6 months or so, these could become collections. So how do I do a corporate senior execs contract? It could be a linked checklist, template, clauses, whatever goes as part of that collection.
Right.
You can then jump into a more kind of traditional search experience. So in this case, I'll start by starting to type in employment. And you'll see here, I start to get some suggestions coming up, either past searches that I've done, save searches that I've done, but we're also extracting phrases out of the documents that you have access to as well. So we'll start to suggest things which are within the document set that you have. In this case, I'll pick on my previous save search. And what you now get up here is a view into your knowledge bank. So we're in a tab here called knowledge. There is a fuller search here, which can search over much more of your document management system. But what you now have here is a knowledge base. And that knowledge base obviously has your documents down here. You can drill down further into these. So you can drill down by things like document category, types of documents which are in that. You can go into the various legal topics. You can go into jurisdiction. So if I only want to make it Europe only, I can do that. You have your documents over here. These are your curated knowledge sets. So these are your firm's templates or know-how documents or checklists, whatever it may be you're looking after. And then you have obviously context within that document. So you can see where the hits are within those documents. If I go larger snippets, you can see more of where the results are, which is interesting. Obviously, in this era of Gen AI and generative results, people really do still want to know where their hits are and what makes those documents contextual. And we'll come on to that a bit in a minute when we look at another part of this. You can also see context here, which is that kind of information around what is this document about. So if I think this is a good idea, you can see that I can then look at what type of document it is. I can look at what jurisdiction that's in. I can see the knowledge type. But the other area, which I was a big kind of thing that I was very almost passionate to put onto these documents, was around metadata, around things like summaries of this document or drafting notes. So often, as you'll know, Nikki, these things are often hidden within the document in square brackets or not overly obvious straight away where a drafting note is or a context like a playbook note is. So what you can see here is that we can now see the drafting note for that document that's being curated on. So you can
Has that
see
been
here.
pulled out of the document, or is that generated off the document in real time so that you have that as part of the metadata or properties?
So this is part of the curation. So at the moment, something like a drafting note, we don't see great results in terms of something like a generative approach. Now, the summary piece, if I go back one step, the summary here is we are starting to push summarization capabilities into the curation workflow. And one of the reasons why, as you mentioned earlier about the workflow capability, the management capability, we built that on top of Microsoft's Power Automate, is you can start to push in enrichment of documents based or of some of this context based on things to work well. So summarization works quite well. We still allow the human to rewrite it, edit it, change it, but it's better to go in and see a summary which has been part written. Something like these drafting notes, playbook notes we don't see the LLMs that good yet at these. They may come over time, but everything you see here can be published, right? So someone can make a choice on how good those are. But yeah, so you can see here context around the document, and then you make your choice around that document. I can open up that document and see a summary of that. I see a preview of that document, which is interesting because quite a lot of the time, whilst people do want to use the document, they also want to view the document, try and understand what's in the preview for that document. It's going quite slowly.
Before they open it.
Before they open it, yeah. So you're always going to have the preview option, see where your hits in context are, etc. Let's see if I can show that there. There you go. So you can see a preview down here of that document. You can see where your hits are. You can make a choice and obviously do things with that information. You don't always need to download it, etc. You can obviously download the document, and there are other functions coming to allow you to move documents to a live matter. So if you want to move the knowledge docs or knowledge pack to a live matter, you can. So I think touching on your question, Nikki, about how does the information get there, we've built the capability to look after knowledge sets. So by a knowledge set, things like either a precedent bank, a template bank, a full-on knowledge system, know-how system, or in time, things like closing sets and key documents. We built that capability to manage the life cycle of those documents into iManage or into iManage work. So I'm just going to show briefly two quick pieces. So number one is I can, as a practicing lawyer, I can just decide I'm going to submit something to the knowledge team. So I can basically within there right click that. I can then decide to pass a little bit of information over to the knowledge team. So I can tell you that it's going to be a good example. I can then put in a little summary there. I can tell you why I think this should go into the knowledge base, and then I can submit that document. So as an end user, that's all I really need to do. Now, obviously, you can make that form as complex or as simple as you want, and generally go with a simple because people are not that are pretty busy. If I go over into that knowledge set, what I can do is start to curate and look after those documents. So what if I go back here, you'll end up seeing a set of folders. They include submitted documents, curated documents, which are kind of documents in work in progress, or I can see published documents, and the published documents are the ones which are already in the system. So over here, I can now have new knowledge properties. These buttons here are the Power Automate workflows. So underneath these buttons are the Power Automate workflows. So one of them could be I just delete this. Another one could be I publish this. And what you can see is I can now have access to the metadata. So I can decide to choose to make something a checklist. I can go in and say what document category I think it is.
So this
I
is where you
can,
would populate your taxonomies, your knowledge
yeah,
taxonomies here, and you're applying your
yeah.
tag.
So here's a multi-value hierarchical taxonomy in iManage, which for many of your users out there will be an exciting thing because that hasn't happened before. And what I can then do is drill down and select those. Now, the thing is, Nikki, as you said, over time, some of the kind of either generative or discriminative AI is going to be able to either suggest these or start to auto-populate some of these. So
Yeah.
something like summary here, that Power Automate flow before it even got here to me as a KML or a PSL could have an auto-suggested version. And then I can edit that, change it, or just leave it as is. And over time, some of these other fields will become potentially auto-suggestible or curatable. So ultimately, some of these fields in time will be more and more suggested. And obviously, as there's many trends around standardization and then how good some of these tools are at classifying or suggesting these. And that Power Automate flow can go out to, it doesn't just have to be iManage AI capabilities, it could go out to any AI capability, because basically Power Automate can triage things to different services. So you could build your own prompts within something like LLM, and you could send those to those. One of the other interesting use cases is later in the year, we're going to start to bring deal sets in, is obviously deal sets are multiple documents, and people don't want to go through 30 documents and add in document class and a summary of each of those, etc. They want to focus at the deal level. So potentially, again, some of the AI capabilities could be auto-suggesting some of these things. And something like doc category here is something that some of our other services, which we're not going to go into today, but iManage AI can already start to suggest those fields. And so they would come pre-ticked within here.
And so when
Obviously, I can then go on.
you, sorry, you were probably about to do this, but when you hit publish, it
Yeah,
then publishes it to the knowledge base, which is
yeah,
then surfaceable within that tab in
within it.
Insights.
Yeah,
And presumably, if you've added a practice area, it will also push it to the relevant
yeah,
experience page for that practice. And are
yeah.
you able to here customize those tabs at the top? So if you wanted to add in matters or something like that, or is documents and knowledge the only sort of repositories that you have for the purpose of Insight Plus at the moment? I really like the way this is all built in together. So you no longer need a separate knowledge base, a separate taxonomy management tool. You can do it all in one place.
So, Nikki, really good question. Yeah, we basically are looking at other experiences. So, the way we're looking at this at the moment is three main areas under this kind of knowledge search. So, we've touched on the curated knowledge sets, and within that, I think you have a large US audience as well, Nikki. And so, things like closing sets and key litigation documents is something that's really important to us, especially as quite a lot of the US firms are looking at more kind of locked postures on their DMS. So, less conducive to classical enterprise search on very open DMSs. They're becoming locked down. So we are going to see a lot more what I'd probably call bulk curation of things like closing sets coming from transaction management tools and key litigation documents that have been filed in the DMS. The next kind of set of experiences is what we call analytical experiences. So these are what we would call matters and people. So basically what I can show you is, let me go into here. So I'm going to run a search here. This is doing a search on the normal document search. So you can see here your normal document search. This is actually on the what we'd call the everything DMS search. And that's just bringing back a list of documents. But I can switch over here to the context of a matter. And now what you get is I'm now searching not for documents, I'm searching for matters. So now what you can see here is I can see as well, we have a slightly different view here. You can still see a list view, but we have what's called a card view. And this card view now brings back matter information, or I can use an advanced search to drill down on different types of information about that matter. And we're going to come in a minute. I'll show you another piece just on how the data gets there. But you can see here, I can drill down on the currency of the matter, the outcome of the matter, which is all coming from like a firm's data warehouse or their business systems on top of obviously the underlying documents and matters. So here you can see all that information, same kind of metaphor of the right-hand side and the information panel, but we're now currently at matter level. So the next question almost goes into, so how does that data get there? And what I'm seeing a lot is classically an enterprise search would try to integrate with lots of different business systems, and it would try to bring those all together within the search. What we're seeing is the organized, not just firms, but large corporates are trying to build things into their data warehouse. And we see that as we're not that. What we will do is integrate with the right information coming from that environment. So what you can see here on this little demo is that I basically represented the data warehouse through the medium of an Excel file. And that Excel, I'm going to make some changes to that Excel file. So I'm going to change the matter name to include my name to make myself feel really important, even though that's probably me being litigated. I'm going to change the matter description a little bit. And I'm also going to change the currency, which previously I think was pounds, and we're going to change those to US dollars. So ultimately, this would be business systems feeding into a data warehouse. And when you press go, Insight can pick up those changes and apply those to those matters and in time people, and then apply that to the search. So now you can see that I can now search for something that wasn't there in the last search. I can now search for Alex Smith, and you can see I can bring back a matter with Alex Smith within that matter. So that's not coming from iManage or the DMS, it's coming from a data warehouse that a firm has built from all their different sources. And then what you can do, we won't go into here, but you can then jump into one of those matters, and then you can see the documents, you can see the emails, you can see the people, you'll be able to see the closing documents that all sit within that matter. But I came in with the persona lens of someone told me to find a similar matter. I can find 10 similar matters based on certain characteristics, jurisdiction, value, type of partner, industry, and then I can drill into those documents. Equally, I could run a search for the documents themselves and then switch context into the matter and see the wider context of the matter if I was searching through for a document.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. And so is that available now or is that coming?
We're getting an EAP of that in the second half of this year. So that is a real demo, but ultimately we've got a lot of work to do on the data warehouse integration and working with firms to be ready for that. So Nikki, the other thing you touched on was around kind of natural search, so the AI powered search. So what we've built into this context, we built into this engine what we call semantic search. So that's what we talk about embedding or vector-based search. So what you can see here is I'm just seeing my normal knowledge base doing keyword search and filtering. But what you can now do is switch context. So you can switch context over into a more natural language questioning approach. So what this is going to do is it's basically allow me to ask a very natural question. You can see that question at the top. It's not keywords. It's quite a long question. What
Yeah.
I'm giving back here is I'm giving back a starting point. So this is a generated starting point on the basis of those underlying documents you can see at the bottom. So this is what we call retrieval augmented generation. So what I've done is run that more natural search over the Insight Plus index. I bring back a series of results which you don't see, and then they get sent to an LLM. That LLM generates a starting point, and that starting point points to the underlying knowledge document. So it points to your checklist, your template, your how-to guide, and in time, your deal documents. So it allows that persona where someone just has no idea what to do, how to find something. It allows them to ask a more natural question, but always grounded on your underlying trusted knowledge sets.
And then I see that it's keeping your questions as well. So you can
Keeps the
go.
questions, so you can go back to those. We haven't got yet whether you share questions or those questions become knowledge assets. One of the little buttons we did have was the ability to send these starting points to the knowledge teams to curate them into full-on Q&As. So very early days on this. Under the bonnet, this is that kind of more natural language search. And I think it's something we will apply to other parts of the overall experience. So how people ask more fuzzy searches, as well as obviously this more generative starting points piece.
That's great. Thank you so much, Alex. It's exciting to see not just where you're at today, which is a huge development from where you've been in the past, but then also where you're going. Thank you for sharing so openly. For all of those watching who would like to know more, we will put some information at the bottom of the screen so that you can have a look and reach out to Alex and his team and iManage generally. But otherwise, Alex, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Nikki.
And thanks to all of you for watching.